Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a solo episode of the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast. It is just me, Oos, down since day one, and we are going to be talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. If there's people joining in the chat, know that chat-heavy episodes when I'm running solo, not a bad thing, so I do encourage that. And anyone listening the next day, hopefully we can at least shed some light on this Wolves honestly kind of scrappy effort against a really good Oklahoma City team. I kind of felt that this team was just, coming off of that Sacramento game, coming off of the Phoenix game, and looking at this team, it kind of looked like it might have been at a crossroads of in danger of kind of losing it all. And I'll be honest, like, for fans that were thinking that there was going to be a 30-point blowout in OKC, like that, there was nothing else that the Wolves had shown up until tonight that would say that there would be anything else. I mean, 0 of 6 against winning opponents, back-to-back just terrible games where they chunk away wins. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that a spaghetti dinner hosted by Mike Conley, I can only assume it was spaghetti dinner. I'm not in Oklahoma City, so I don't know what they actually ate. And the delightful beat reporters that are there are all serious journalists like Chris Hines and John Krasinski, and they don't ask Mike Conley what the entrees were at the dinner like yours truly would. Anyways, they really showed up tonight. I thought this was a really good defensive effort. I mean, again, this is an Oklahoma City team that has been destroying teams. I mean, a 120.5 offensive rating. They're winning games on average by like 15 to 17 points. They're 18-1 now. I mean, this is the hands down championship favorite. And I kind of felt like the announcers were really kind of pumping into that narrative of like this is a Goliath and the Wolves are the closest thing that could pose a problem here. And they met in the Western Conference Finals. I don't know if everyone listening knew that, but they made sure to say that about 97 times. And it ended up being a lot closer than I think I thought. I think it ended up being a lot more competitive than I was expecting it to be. And that's a credit to the Wolves defense really playing strong the entire night. I mean, if you just look at the box score tomorrow morning, or for people listening to this on Thanksgiving, first off, happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for listening. But if you're just checking the box scores, it looks like Shea just did his thing. 40 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 12 of 19. He was plus 12. Just looks like Shea shade, and that was the end of the game. Shot 15 of 17 from the free throw line, which I'll be honest, like I didn't think any of those fouls were particularly egregious tonight. I mean, it's annoying, but I thought the officials were fine. But anyways, back on point, like the Wolves played him good. I mean, Jaden played really well against Shea. Ant, when he got mixed onto him, played him really well. Jalen had a couple good moments playing really good defense on him. I mean, this was a team that kind of flexed their muscles of like, if they actually do buy into that defensive intent, like defensive identity that Chris Finch and everyone on the coaching staff has been telling them that they're a defensive first team. I mean, they can kind of hang with anyone. Professor mentions here in the chat, think we found some grit tonight. Didn't look sharp, but the Wolves competed. Or Joseph, I see that. Appreciate the support of the pod here. And then Ren, high key, we could have won if Finch actually played Aaron Shannon Jr. at the end. Bro hasn't missed a shot. First, like, I do want to just say, like, again, this was a team that I think if they lose this game by 30, the calls for change are getting really loud. And I'll be honest, like everyone would have been justified for that calls for change. Like if you blow 2 games like that and the team loses by 30, like that is a coaching issue. If you lose those 2 games like that and you lose by 30, that's an Ant. Like, what are we doing? That's a Julius. Is he locked in? That kind of might have forced the Wolves' hands to make a decision sooner rather than later. I think playing competitively, especially against a Thunder team that has been mowing teams down, I mean, all season, I think that at least still can entertain the Wolves aren't that far away, thought process of like, okay, well, J-Dub was out tonight, but like, what if it's J-Dub and somebody goes out injured? Then we could compete with Oklahoma City. Maybe we can already compete with them with one injury and we have a shot, right? I think if they lose this one by a ton, it's a look in the mirror of the organization of just kind of a what are we doing? I think what makes all of this particularly hard for the Wolves is they can't trade Nas, they can't trade Randall until January. I mean, they sign new contracts. That's one of those weird NBA rules where you just can't trade for someone for like 75 days, I think. So like, can't really make a huge deal. Rudy, I've been kind of touting out there, but like he's pretty much untradeable. Like no one that is going to trade something of really big value is excited that mid-season Rudy Gobert is your acquisition back. And like Rob, TJ haven't really been good enough to be great assets. Jaden, I know there was a leak out there today that like Jaden and Ant are the only two untouchables. That eliminates him. Mike, I think, whether you love him or hate him, like I would say he's probably third on that untouchable list. And then there's Dante. So it is kind of just, what do you do? Like if you're the Wolves, like what do? You can't really pull the big trigger on a Randall trade or a Nas move until another month and a half. So you kind of got to keep them engaged. And everyone else is just kind of either a dwindling asset or you don't want to trade, which then it does come down to, Ren says, I think Finch is still on the hot seat. Then that does start to become the conversation of, do we need to make a change at coach? Which I'll be honest, I'm not a big fire a coach mid-season type of guy. Like I don't think Mike Malone would solve a lot of these problems, nor do I think he would like entertain being hired mid-season. I mean, when the Wolves hired Chris Finch mid-season, Finch got like a ton of blowback on that they kind of circumvented like a lot of the hiring processes and interviewing processes that like the NBA puts up for like affirmative action and all that stuff. So like it could have been bad, right? But they weaseled out of that with the Finch. I think if they fired Finch and then hired like Michael Malone, they're going to be in that hot seat again, and maybe the league's looking into it. So then it's like you're promoting Mike Inori or Pablo Prigioni, C. Hines, like whoever, name generic bench coach. And like all of those bench coaches are really tight. They all come up with game plans together. They all have the same similar philosophies. Like nothing's really going to change if it's just Mike Inori at the head, other than, maybe there's a kick in the behind of Ant and some of the other players that they gotta, there is no excuses and no one's untouchable. But like, I also think, Finch is in such good standing with Ant, and I can attest that the team still is behind him. Like they still rave about him. They still really like him. They're still bought in. He has the ability to like get these extra like levels out of guys and manage emotions. And like, I don't think they would pull that trigger. So then if it's a 30-point loss tonight, you're sitting here as a Wolves organization, just kind of looking in the mirror going like, well, we can't do anything for a month and a half. So how do we stay competitive for a month and a half, knowing that we can't do anything in steps this type of performance where the defense is there? Ant looks great in the second half again. Julius had a tough game. The free throws were really tough, but like they showed enough to where I think, as Professor says here, for one half, I was ready to blow it up as well, but this team has enough talent to compete. I mean, that's what it is. They showed tonight that they do have the talent level to compete kind of against anyone. Joseph adds, we lost because free throws and Julius was super bad tonight. He had so many open shots when they would blind double Ants. It was more encouraging than anything. I agree with that. Like the free throw misses was debilitating. Like especially, Rudy goes up there kind of in clutch time and clanks two of them. I mean, that's tough. Ant was missing quite a few of them in the first half. Like if this game was a 5-point game instead of a 10-point game at halftime, maybe it ends a little differently. But like the free throws is something this team has to figure out. And Rudy is never going to be a great free throw shooter, but for the most part, everyone else on this team is a above average free throw shooter for their careers. I don't know if it's just a weird funk because they missed quite a few against the Kings as well. They, Ant clunked a couple against Phoenix. Tough, right? I will say the Julius side of it, if there is a move that's coming down the pipeline, that I think is still the one that might warrant looking into. Because it is weird how we're at this stage in Anthony Edwards' career, right? Where it's year 6. We kind of know what he's capable of right now. Like he's still not seeing the game like at a peak level from like a basketball IQ sense, just because that takes time. But he needs someone that can help. I mean, when he's getting doubled, I mentioned to someone on Twitter earlier of just like when Ant's getting doubled, the reason there isn't back cuts is because like Ant kind of needs to know where those outlets are. Like it's like a rookie quarter. I mean, I'm wearing a Vikings hat. It's like JJ McCarthy. He needs to know where that check down is. And sometimes he will hit it. Other times he will just get obliterated or throw it directly to the other team. But he needs to know where it is. Like Ant extensively kind of needs to know where the other 4 guys are going to be. So when he gets blitzed, he can make that snap decision without having to go like, oh shoot, Jalen's cutting to the basket and recognizing more. It's like a processing thing. Anyways, not to say he's not doing a good, he's 25, like 30-year-old Ant is probably going to be able to process this game and have back cuts and have all of this other things. But like currently, as we're sitting here, like Ant kind of needs that structure. And Julius, I think, also needs that structure. Like, I think Julius, when he's getting it in the post, he kind of needs to know where guys are going to be for when he's like doing his back down, jump up in the air, and then whip a pass to the corner type of thing. Like, if people are cutting from the corners, that blind pass that Julius throws just goes out of bounds and it's turnover. So, like, it's kind of a cop-out, but like they're just not skilled at reading like unpredictable floor movement stuff. So when you're looking at Ant and Julius together, they're both in the top 10 for isolation percentage. They're both really kind of structured players. And that means that when these clutch time situations come up, it's just your turn, my turn. And I don't know if trading Julius for a point guard fixes that. Like, I'll just be kind of frank of, I don't know if you trade Julius and Dante and Rob for Trae Young. And I don't know if that fixes that, because I think Trae Young is able to decipher more of this stuff, but then you still have Ant, who is probably, I mean, unless they go and trade for Doncic, he will be the best player on the team, no matter who they trade for. And he's not super engaged off ball still offensively. So I just don't know how much that would fix versus, if they were to go out and trade Julius and they were to get 2 really good, like C players, right? Instead of having your 1A of Ant and your B plus is Julius, you just trade that B plus for a couple C pluses and you just expand, the options that Ant has to pass it to, or players that are more quick decision, willing to move the ball. I think that might be the move if there is one, because like tonight, if Julius has an average game, or if Julius is Brandon Clark, maybe they end up winning this game. Again, there are games though that Julius wins single-handedly because he is that talented. It's just a really weird roster construction, which I think that's what most of the people covering the team have kind of come to terms with this season, is like, oh, nothing has really changed from last year. It's just still weird. And I think a lot of fans are seeing that too. And for fans, like, you've kind of been sold a bad bill of goods. You're told all offseason that this is going to be a high energy effort team. They brought him back. They're going to work on the margins, and it's kind of the same team. I mean, they sleepwalk at times. They do things that are incredibly frustrating. They have a lot of turnovers. They play a lot of ISO. And I mean, they show tonight that they are going to wake up against Oklahoma City and play out of their mind. But then when the game is within reach, they're going to miss 2 free throws, have a 5-second violation, and Julius is going to have a bad game when they need him to have a really good game. It's just tough. Cole mentions, we need another dominant guard next to Ant. Honestly, like, this is not a hot take, but like 27-year-old Mike Conley would have been great next to Ant. I think like Derek White would be awesome next to Ant. I think he needs a really, really like unique, not pigeonholed, but like unique point guard to play next. Coughed and then didn't unmute my mic. Cole also says Randall body language is awful. Yeah, I mean, the pushback I will give to that is Randall is a top 35 NBA player. And when you're at the end of these games and you are a guy that thinks that he should have the ball in his hand because you are a multi-time all-star, all NBA caliber player at times, and then Ant is just kind of running. I mean, that I think it was the third to last play where Ant just ran the clock down for like 20 seconds, then ended up hitting a shot. No passes, no movement, nothing on an entire like clutch time like possession. Next possession down, Dante, no passing, no nothing. Dante gets blocked on a layup, and then the game's kind of over. And Randall's like the second best guy on the team, going like, wait a second, I didn't even get a touch. Like, I didn't even get like involved in a screen. I'm Julius Randall and I'm sitting in the corner, which that's like why I think if there is a move, like it probably is going to revolve around a Julius move, just because like he's not being utilized offensively like as much as he probably should be. But then it's his limitations offensively, as we just talked about, with like the kind of needing a set offense, kind of limit everybody else's. It's again, weird team. Spencer brings up thoughts on TJ McConnell. All right, so this is like TJ McConnell. I genuinely like love his game, love him as a scrappy player. I think when he's not on your team, he gets, kind of this, and even when he is on your team, like I think like the Pacers really enjoyed their time with him. Philadelphia really enjoyed him. Like, I think he's a good player. I think if you had TJ McConnell and Rudy Gobert on the floor together, that would pose pretty big offensive problems. Like, I know McConnell's better at like the hustle stuff. He's a gifted passer. I mean, how many lobs did he throw to Miles Turner last year? Like, I just think like it'd be a weird fit unless they are like purely trading for him for the like 18 minutes that Gobert doesn't play. It's also like, if it comes down to a TJ McConnell, like he makes $10 million, which is like a great amount of money for your backup point guard to make. But like for the Wolves to trade for him, it's like Dante for TJ McConnell, which like I know Dante has his like people that love him and his detractors, but I don't know how much better or worse you're getting. I think it's probably like a lateral move. You'll lose some of the shooting. You'll lose some of the like, off ball stuff. But then with TJ, you'll get a little bit better at the passing side and probably a little bit better on the defensive side, but it's probably a net moot. I got a couple people agreeing with Derek White. Yeah. Derek White's like, I don't know if you could convince Boston of like, here's Julius Randle, Rob Dillingham, and Jalen Clark, but like Derek White's the player I would probably go all in for. TJ, Terrence Shannon Jr., Ren brings up as just a second guy in the Timberwolves. He's really good. I do think when he played earlier this year and Ant wasn't with the team. Like he kind of got exposed a little bit of like, he does really good in space and he does really well when he's driving with the ball and has that full head of steam. But when teams are able to kind of cheat off of certain players and hedge that drive, there was a lot of like TJ turns the corner and then kind of makes a panic pass that turns into a turnover, which again, like he's 25, 24, like he will develop more in his career. But like TJ as an ancillary piece, awesome. Like he's just awesome. Um, Ren also brings up Rob Dillingham. I'll agree with you. Great game for Rob. Mike, I think he was in the second quarter. Mike got just blown by for a layup, and I kind of like audibly went like, "Oh, Mike," because it's again, I'm an older man, so I'm used to Mike Conley, even when he gets blown by, being able to like whip his hips around and catch up and like poke that ball away. He just can't anymore. So it's just kind of like, oof. But then Rob came in. He was really good. Like I thought his decision making was really good. I thought his defense, like again, for being so undersized against anyone he's going to match up against in the in Oklahoma City's like guard rotation, like he was really good. And honestly, this is kind of the third straight game of Rob being fine to good. I'm not willing to say like it's the Dillingham-assance, Robissance. I'm not willing to say it's the Robissance yet, but like it's encouraging. I mean, these are the things with young players that like just are encouraging. Like he looks like he is a little bit better. I also really liked when they went without Julius and Ant in the fourth quarter that they just let Rob try to cook. Like I think that's Rob's best chance of being a competent player on this roster this year is just like 12 minutes of just letting him cook. And if he's not turning the ball over like crazy, if he is doing, you know, willing to take shots, willing to try and make something happen, like he can change things in a hurry. I do think, you know, the opposite view of that is, you know, if Rob's playing 12 minutes and he has a bad 5-minute first stretch, maybe you throw Jalen in there the next stretch and go for kind of the medium. But yeah, really good stretch of games for Rob. Phil asks here, why did Finch go away from Jaden so much? He needs to be used in the offense more consistently. I agree. My pushback on that is I don't know if it's as much of a Finch thing, and I don't know, or as much as it is like a Jaden thing. Jaden got a couple touches in the fourth quarter tonight that I mean, it looked like he didn't want the ball. I think it was a turnover on one of them where he tried to like force a pass over to Julius and Ant couldn't get open. Julius couldn't get open. Jaden like picks up his dribble and then he's just like, I don't want this, and tried to lob it up over to Randall and then it gets poked away and it's turnover and like disaster. But Jaden, I think what I would say is he needs to be involved in the game consistently because he had a really good first quarter. And then for all extensive purposes, we didn't hear from him offensively again the rest of the night. And I think if Jaden is just a couple times a quarter, you just do a mid-range ISO for him and let him try. I think that might keep him more engaged because it is like, it's so easy to like sit here as like a reporter or a fan or whatever on our couch and be like, oh, why isn't that guy just like taking it? Why isn't that guy? But like Jaden's still like a 24, 25-year-old guy, hasn't touched the ball really in 45 real life minutes. And now it's clutch time. You don't want to screw up. I just think like it might be less of a Finch isn't calling things for Jaden and more of a Jaden's just kind of avoiding those moments or trying to get off the ball in those moments and giving it to the guys that like genuinely live for that stuff. That is completely speculative though. Like I can ask Jaden about it. My guess is he would probably say what any player would say and be like, no, I'm comfortable in those moments. Like that's not the case, but just optically tonight, it looked like he wanted nothing to do with those possessions. Cole, they aren't trading for him. Their GM laughed at the speculation. Derek White, I'm assuming. Yeah. Again, tough. He's the guy that I would be chomping at the bit for, but I mean, when Tatum, Brown, and Derek White are your core, that is a really tough team, especially on the perimeter to deal with. Um, I'm going to run a couple ad reads here. When we come back, I'll read some more chat questions. We'll keep the conversation going, but I have to cough. So we are going to run some ad reads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. All right, couple comments coming in saying, Rob had a better game than Mike. Spencer mentions Mike getting cut or crushed on some backdoor cuts. Again, like, I think if Mike is playing 12 minutes a game, I think he has the energy, the finesse to maybe compete better at those moments. But when Mike doesn't know if he's going to be playing 12 minutes or 35 minutes, he kind of has to conserve energy. I mean, you think of like LeBron taking plays off on defense, which he's been kind of notorious for doing since joining the Lakers. Like, there is just something to, like, you only have a certain amount of calories in a game, and when you hit a certain age, those calories need to be used smartly. And I think Mike got a little bit of heat earlier this year. He answered a question after a practice about, like, what his feelings were around his role, and he kind of said something to the effect of, like, it's frustrating not knowing how many minutes you're going to get a night. Like, that's why it's frustrating for him, because, like, he still probably gets back cut, but maybe he's like grabbing and gets a off ball and gets like a reach in foul or something like that prevents it. But, like, when you don't know if you're going to have to go back into the game in the fourth and play 10 minutes, like, it's just, I'm giving him an out on that one, because, like, this wasn't the plan for Mike Conley. Like, Mike, all off season, all training camp, was pretty happy with the fact that he was going to play 12 to 18 minutes and that was it, and his body was going to feel good. And then the wheels kind of came off immediately, and they just need him to be more. And I don't know if he can be more at this point, but, like, if he's your 12-minute backup point guard, like, I think he's probably one of the best backups in the league. Ren mentions, I'm saying Rob, once he gets those muscles and strengths going, he will silence the haters. I'm going to be honest, like, he really could. Like, I do think he needs to bulk up a little bit still. You know, I'll be honest, he is a very thin, slender 21-year-old. Metabolism is obviously working well, because I know he's in the weight room. I know he's doing all of the things he's supposed to, but he's not putting on the weight. So maybe he just needs, like, an all cookie dough ice cream diet and put on some flab and then pretend that's weight. But, like, I do think once he gets a little more bulked up, like, it will be different for him, especially, like, on offense. Like, he can't really bump off of anybody. Like, if anyone contacts him, he just gets crushed. And on defense, like, he tries really hard. It's just, you know, like, how do you stay with players that are like 4 inches taller than you and like 40 pounds heavier than you? Like, he's scrappy. He tries. I would say the other thing, Ren, that, like, I think he needs to just grow a little bit more in is the decision making. Is the turnovers have been fine the last 3 games. I'll give him that. But like if you're looking to earn trust and earn minutes and like realistically on this team, if he is playing starting caliber minutes, like he's playing with Randall and Ant, who are already turnover prone players, like you can't have another guy that's going to make some boneheaded turnovers, which that would be my pushback of like, if Rob got traded somewhere, I think there's a really good chance that he could score 20 something points a night and look awesome. I also think, Rob for this team doesn't need to score that many and just kind of needs to be a steady hand. Spencer asked in the chat here, genuinely curious on your thoughts as someone with a little more inside with the squad because Wolves Twitter right now is ruthless. Yeah. Wolves Twitter's been tough. I think this is the same team that we had last year. Not much really seems to affect these guys. Like they truly do have like the next game mentality. I guarantee you none of them have thought about Phoenix since the day after Phoenix. And, after tonight, they'll probably not think about this Oklahoma City game again. I do think, at this point I think we've seen kind of the ceiling of this current iteration. I think if things go right and certain guys catch fire at the right time, like they could be a finals team. I don't know if I would bet on things breaking right and certain guys catching fire at the right time. And it's going to be a really good season. They're still probably going to win 50 games. I still would take them as a top 4 seed in the West, but they're going to be mind-numbingly frustrating at times, whether that's, tonight not being able to inbound the ball on like a crucial possession and then no one calling timeout, which yes, Finch didn't call it, but Julius could call it, Dante could call it, Ant could call it. There's no movement off ball, like stuff like that'll happen. It's the same thing, against, I think it was the Kings, like Jaden picks off Russell Westbrook and looks like it's going to be putting the game kind of back on ice and then immediately turns it over. Or Dante dives for a loose ball, tips it, and then immediately turns it over. Rudy gets a steal and immediately turns it over. Like it's just this weird thing with this team. So I do think if they did make a trade or something like that, it's probably more the TJ McConnell-esque trade where it's, hey, let's try and bring a steadier hand, like adult in the room and see if we can mitigate some of these like boneheaded mistakes. And then this offseason's probably the actual domino, whether it's trading Rudy, whether it's trading Rudy and Randall, whether it's a full reset where they just say Jaden and Ant and Nas, you're our 3. Let's revamp the entire roster. I think this offseason's probably when they'll do that, but it's going to be I think at this point we have enough of a sample size to say like it's probably going to be a frustrating season where they're going to go and lose to the Wizards or almost lose to the Wizards and then a week later play the best team in the league down to the wire, while also doing typical Wolves things. Godfrey says in the chant here of just, Conley is washed up. I will say Conley as a starting point guard, not ideal. I think if he's your 12-minute backup, like you can do a lot worse, but I don't think he can give you much more than 12 to 15 at a high level. And that's, human bodies aren't meant to play basketball for 19 seasons. You should see him walking around after the games. He looks like he's wearing skates sometimes. He's so kind of debilitated. With that being said, if there's any other last second questions in the chat, would love to read them off. If not, we do have a back-to-back coming up Saturday and Sunday home games that hopefully will get this team kind of back on the right track. Gear Up podcast says, do you think we are sleeping? Do you think we are sleeping in this part of the season? And do you think we should trade for a point guard? Kind of already kind of already mentioned the point guard side. Like I think it needs to be the right point guard. I think if it's Ja Morant, nothing changes with this team. It's just instead of Julius dribbling the air out of the ball and then Ant taking turns dribbling the air out of the ball, it'd just be Ant and Ja, which I don't know if that does anything. Also, like Ja, I mean, just looking at his like career trajectory, like he's never really developed that outside shot, and his inside numbers have been falling for a few years. That like just on its surface worries me. The other thing I'd say, like with some of the other big name point guards, like a De'Aaron Fox, I think you'd get a similar, your turn, my turn type of thing. Trae Young, I think could work, but Atlanta is also like good. So I don't know why they would trade Trae Young when he's back to full strength and theoretically that team has a chance to take advantage in a really weak East Conference. Again, to me, like they need someone like Derek White, a guy that can play really good perimeter defense, is good enough to demand the ball, but also is kind of that pass first, like floor general point guard, but also can create for himself a little bit. And those guys are not very common. I mean, like theoretically, DeJounte Murray is that type of player too. He hasn't really shown it in a couple seasons. And then it's what are you giving up? Because if you're giving up like Julius and Jaden for Trae Young, you're probably sending out more than you'd like to. I do what I would say though, gear up if you're still in here is the sleepwalking part of it. It does seem very similar to last season where maybe they're not 9 and 10 and Rudy's or Julius is just not throwing the ball to Rudy and he gets a 3-second violation, but like it does seem kind of the similar vibe of you know I wouldn't be surprised if we see some pretty frustrating losses against bad teams and then they play the Nuggets and they win by like 3. Like it does seem like a similar vibe where maybe they're not waking up for that, which like I know as Wolves fans, we kind of are expecting this team to be really good and we're expecting all these things to change, but like they're still like a back-to-back Western Conference Finals team. They've kind of shown that they can wake up when it matters and at least, advance. So I'm not too worried about it yet. Spencer asks here, what have you seen from Johan during the practice gym runs? He looks good. He jumps at everything. I think he truly believes he can block everything, every floater, every runner, everything. I think that kid legitimately thinks that he can get them all, but he jumps at everything. And he is like really raw on the like basketball IQ terminology stuff, whether that's, knowing where to be in certain sets or, they're having to explain like, you know, when they're saying like there's weak side help and stuff like it, he just has not played a lot of basketball. And with the language barrier and trying to get used to the speed of the NBA, it's been kind of illuminating, I guess. And that's kind of what the coaches have said too, is they think of him more as like a next year being a contributor type of player, just because he's pretty far behind in like the basketball development sense. But like he's a ridiculous athlete. I will say, like, just from watching him in practice, he seems to have a really good touch around the rim, like really good hands catching the ball. He's like seems like he's really taking a lot of time working on his footwork, and he does have like a decent mid-range shot, which it's not like Jaden or Ant who are going to shoot like 35% from mid-range, but like he can at least stretch the defense a little bit. I think there should be like rightfully a lot of kind of hope in him. I just unfortunately like it's just one of those things where you know he's a ways away from being able to give you like real competent minutes at the center position, especially with how the Wolves defense runs. Like he's going to get a ton of fouls if he plays right away. And he's probably going to get offensive 3-second calls, and he's probably going to get illegal screens and, get in people's way. And until he can kind of catch up on that part, it's just tough. Um, Cole, I'll finish with yours here because we're approaching that 40-minute mark. But how did you feel about Jaden getting that foul on the immature move? OKC players would never do that, and they are young coaching. I will say, like, I'm not a big fan of, you know, I thought Jaden punting the basketball into the 10th row. I thought Rudy getting super upset off of a non-call. Honestly, Ant should have got teched up in this game too. There's a couple no calls in the fourth quarter where he was like at the ref's face screaming at them that it should have been a call. Like that stuff. I just don't think there's like room in the game for it. Like I am all for like the shit talking. I'm all for the like Jaden putting out his cigarette or illegal smoking substance depending on what state you're in. All for that stuff. Love the trash talk, love the intensity, love all of the stuff on the court. But like when you're kicking a basketball like or throwing a basketball up in the air, it's like there's just no need for it. The complaining to the refs too. You're already, facing the best team in the league. Do you really need to make it a refs are against us too type of issue? Like those are just things that uh, I'm not particularly a big fan of. I don't know how much of it is coaching. I don't know how much of it is character. Like I think if you look at a lot of the guys on Oklahoma City that are younger, they tend to follow that kind of Caruso, SGA, Hartenstein, don't really talk a whole bunch. They seem kind of more I mean, they obviously play with like a fire and a passion, but they don't seem like they wear their emotions on their sleeves as much. Whereas the Wolves, I think part of the reason they're so fun to root for and they have such like big fans is they do wear their emotions on their sleeve. Like Nas, Nas goes off the handle sometimes. I mean, there's reasons that Jaden has like TikTok compilations of grabbing people by their shirt collar. Ant obviously doesn't hide his emotions. I think it's more of like an emotional, not maturity, because like I don't really buy into that. My guess is Ant is always going to be this way. Jaden is always going to be this way. Like maybe they get a little better at it, but like I think it's more of like an emotional preference almost of like the Wolves do seem to like those fiery guys, even if it's Dante, Jalen. Um, like they like that extra kind of pizzazz on the personality where they're not going to just back away from stuff. And with that, sometimes it comes with bad decisions. As I have said a couple times this year, at least Jaden is not punching brick walls. So there has been some growth. But yeah, that technical was tough. And Finch does call them moody. I'm trying to think. I think he called them surly too, which like that they are. They're a moody group. They which to cover as I stammer through words, like to cover this team, it's a lot of fun. Like it's really nice to go up and ask Mike about something or go up and ask Jaden or Ant about something and they give like an honest, like human answer. Um, but again, when you have that more flair on your emotions, sometimes those things get out of check a little bit more, which again, at least he didn't break his hand tonight. Um, but like I say, back-to-back home spread after Thanksgiving here on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be coming live again post-game from the Target Center after that. And for anyone who has just listened to me solo ramble for 44 minutes, I appreciate you especially. And all of the people that came in the chat asking questions. This is my preferred way to do it. I always want this show to be kind of led and dictated by what fans want to talk about. So appreciate all of you guys coming in, dropping comments. And Teresa, for some reason, it says it is 4:03 in the morning wherever you are. I just saw all of your comments. Thank you so much for commenting so much. And like I say, we'll be back after the next game on Saturday.